The ship was dying. Captain Eth could feel it in the way the walls shook and the lights flickered. Every alarm on the bridge screamed at him, but he did not need the alarms to know how bad things were. He could smell the burning metal. He could hear the engines crying like wounded animals. "How much longer?" he asked, his 4 eyes scanning the damage reports on his screen. His second officer, a young named, shook her head. Her blue skin had turned pale with fear. "The main engine will fail in 6 hours, maybe less. We are losing power every minute." Eth closed his eyes for a moment. His crew had trusted him to keep them safe. 23 souls depended on him, and he had led them straight into an ambush. The enemy ships had appeared from nowhere, their weapons tearing through the scout vessel like paper. They had only escaped because of luck and the sacrifice of their rear shields. Now they drifted through empty space, far from any station, far from any help. "There must be somewhere we can go," Eth said. "Show me the nearest systems." Pulled up the star map. Most of it glowed red, marking territory or empty void. But one small dot glowed yellow, indicating an unknown status. "That system," Eth pointed. "What is it?" "Sol System," read from the database. "Home of the humans, a young species. They achieved space travel only 200 years ago. They are not part of the Galactic Union." Eth had heard of humans. Every species in the galaxy had heard of them, though few had actually met one. The stories were strange and hard to believe. Some said humans were friendly and curious. Others said they were dangerous and unpredictable. But most agreed on one thing. Humans were primitive compared to the older races. "Can we reach them?" Eth asked. Calculated quickly. "Yes. If we push the engines, we can reach Earth in 4 hours. But Captain, they might not have the technology to help us. Their ships are basic. Their tools are simple." "Simple tools are better than no tools," Eth replied. "Set course for Earth." The ship groaned as it changed direction. Eth hoped the engines would hold long enough. He hoped the humans would be willing to help strangers from the stars. He hoped for many things, but hope was all he had left. As the hours passed, the ship grew worse. More systems failed. The temperature dropped as heating units shut down. The crew wrapped themselves in emergency blankets and waited. Some prayed to old gods. Others simply sat in silence, watching the stars through cracked windows. Ho was the only human on the ship. He had served as a liaison officer for 3 years, living among thee and learning their ways. Now he sat beside Captain Eth, watching Earth grow larger on the screen. "I never thought I would return home like this," Ho said quietly. Eth looked at the human. Ho was small compared to, with only 2 eyes and strange flat teeth. But he had proven himself brave and loyal many times. Eth trusted him more than many of his own kind. "Will your people help us?" Eth asked. Ho smiled, but there was something strange in his expression, something the captain could not read. "They will help you, I promise you that. Even though we are strangers, even though we never contacted them officially." "Humans have a saying," Ho said. "A friend in need is a friend indeed. It means we help those who need help even if we just met them." Eth wanted to believe this, but he had lived long enough to know that most species looked out for themselves first. The galaxy was not a kind place. Resources were limited. Trust was rare. Why would humans be any different? The ship shook violently as another system failed, called out from her station. "Captain, we have lost navigation control. We are drifting." "Can we still reach Earth?" Eth demanded. "Yes, but we cannot control our approach. We will enter their space without permission. They might see us as a threat." Ho stood up quickly. "Let me contact them. I know the frequencies. I can explain everything." Eth nodded and Ho rushed to the communication panel. His fingers moved fast over the controls, sending signals toward Earth. For a long moment there was only static. Then a voice answered, speaking in the human language. Ho spoke rapidly, explaining their situation. Eth could not understand the words, but he watched Ho's face carefully. The human seemed relieved. He even laughed at one point. "What did they say?" Eth asked when the communication ended. "They said welcome to Earth," Ho replied. "They are sending ships to guide us in. They have medical teams ready. They have engineers standing by." He paused, and that strange smile returned to his face. "They have been waiting for visitors." "Waiting?" Eth repeated. "How could they be waiting? We did not announce our arrival." Ho shrugged. "Humans are always waiting, always preparing. It is what we do." Before Eth could ask more questions, new shapes appeared on the sensor screen. Ships. Many ships. They moved in perfect formation, surrounding the damaged vessel like a protective shell. Gasped, "Captain, those ships. They are not like the human vessels in our database. These are advanced, very advanced." Eth stared at the screen. She was right. The ships approaching them were sleek and powerful, nothing like the primitive crafts he had expected. They looked like predators, fast and deadly, yet they moved with gentle care around his wounded ship. "What is happening?" Eth whispered. Ho placed a hand on the captain's shoulder. "You needed help. Earth is here to help. Do not worry about the details. Just let us take care of you." The human's words were kind, but they only made Eth more confused. What kind of species prepared this well for visitors who never announced their coming? What kind of species had such powerful ships but hid them from the galaxy? What kind of species waited in the shadows while everyone else thought they were weak? As Earth grew larger in the window, blue and green and beautiful, Eth felt something he had not expected to feel. He felt afraid, not of dying, but of learning the truth about humans, because he was starting to suspect that everything he knew about this young species was wrong. The first human ships attached to his vessel, holding it steady with tractor beams. A calm voice spoke over the radio, telling his crew not to worry. Help was here. Everything would be fine. Eth wanted to believe it, but as he watched more and more ships emerge from Earth's shadow, he could not shake one thought from his mind. They had attacked his ship without mercy. They were the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Yet looking at the fleet surrounding him now, Eth wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. They had sent his ship running toward Earth. They had shown humans that war was coming. And somehow, impossibly, the humans seemed ready for it. The landing was gentle, far gentler than Eth expected. His damaged ship touched down on a massive platform surrounded by lights and machines. Through the window, he could see hundreds of humans moving with purpose, pushing equipment toward his vessel, speaking into devices, pointing at the damage. "They work fast," said, her voice filled with wonder. Eth nodded slowly. He had visited many spaceports in his life, seen many species respond to emergencies, but he had never seen anything like this. The humans moved like water flowing around rocks, each person knowing exactly where to go and what to do. There was no confusion, no shouting, just calm, efficient action. A signal came through the radio. Ho listened and then turned to the captain. "They want us to open the main hatch. A greeting party is waiting." Eth stood and straightened his uniform, trying to look dignified despite his exhaustion. "You come with me. Everyone else, stay here and rest. We will learn what we can." The main hatch opened with a tired groan, and Eth stepped out into the light of Earth. The air smelled strange, filled with scents he could not name, water and plants and something metallic. The gravity was slightly heavier than he was used to, but not uncomfortable. A human woman stood at the bottom of the ramp, waiting for them. She was short, with black hair pulled back from her face and dark eyes that seemed to miss nothing. She wore a uniform covered in symbols Eth did not recognize. "Captain Eth," she said, and he was surprised that she spoke his language perfectly. "I am Lieutenant of Korean Space Command. Welcome to Earth. We are honored to receive you." Eth bowed slightly, following the greeting customs he had learned. "Lieutenant, I thank you for your assistance. My ship and crew are in poor condition. We did not mean to intrude on your world." Smiled warmly. "You are not intruding. "You are guests. Please come this way. Our medical teams want to check your crew, and our engineers are eager to look at your ship." She led them across the platform toward a large building. Everywhere Eth looked, he saw technology that confused him. The screens on the walls showed data in languages he could not read. The machines hummed with power he could not understand. This was not the primitive world the databases had described. "Lieutenant," Eth said carefully, "your technology seems more advanced than we were told." Glance back at him with that same warm smile. "Our databases in the Galactic Union are outdated. We prefer to keep quiet about our progress. Safer that way." "Safer from what?" She did not answer, only kept walking. Inside the building, the air was cool and clean. Human workers moved through the halls, some of them stopping to stare at Eth and with curious eyes, but most simply nodded politely and continued with their work. A new human approached them, a man with wide shoulders and grease stains on his hands. His name tag read Sung-Ho, and his expression was eager and excited. "You are the captain?" Sung-Ho asked, barely waiting for an answer. "I just looked at your engines. Beautiful design, really beautiful, but whoever built them made some interesting choices." He paused, searching for the right words. "Very old choices." Eth felt his pride sting a little. "Ships are among the finest in the galaxy. Our engineers are highly skilled." "Oh, I do not doubt that," Sung-Ho said quickly. "Skilled engineers can do amazing things with limited tools. But Captain, your power systems are running at maybe 30% efficiency. Your shield generators use twice as much energy as they need to. And your weapons," he shook his head, "I could triple their output with a few adjustments." Stepped forward, her eyes wide. "Triple, that is impossible." Sung-Ho grinned. "Want to bet? Give me 2 days with your ship. I will show you what human engineering can do." Eth exchanged a look with Ho, who simply shrugged. "He is good," Ho said. "One of the best on the planet. Let him work." "What do you want in return?" Eth asked, because nothing in the galaxy came free. Every species wanted something: resources, information, favors. Sung-Ho looked confused by the question. He turned to, who stepped closer to the captain. "We want nothing," said. "You needed help, we are helping, that is all." "But the resources, the time, the manpower," Eth gestured at the busy workers around them. "This must cost your government greatly." "It costs us nothing we cannot afford," replied. "Captain, I understand your confusion. The galaxy runs on trade and debt and balance, but Earth operates differently. We help because helping is right. We strengthen our friends because strong friends make the universe safer for everyone." She paused. "Including us." Eth wanted to argue, wanted to point out that such thinking was naive and dangerous. But he was too tired and too grateful to fight. If the humans wanted to fix his ship for free, he would let them. Over the next several hours, the humans worked without rest. Engineers swarmed over the vessel, replacing damaged parts with new components. Medical teams examined the crew, treating injuries and offering strange foods and drinks. One doctor even laughed when she saw biology for the first time, saying it was adorable how similar they were to humans inside. Eth walked through the repair bay, watching the humans work. Sung-Ho moved from system to system, making changes so fast that Eth could barely follow. Wires were rerouted. Panels were replaced. New machines were installed in spaces that had held ancient equipment. "Your ship will be better than new," Sung-Ho promised. "Faster, stronger, more efficient. The High Command will be very impressed." "How do you know so much about our technology?" Eth asked. "We have had no official contact with Earth." Sung-Ho paused his work and looked at the captain. "We have been watching the stars for a long time, learning, preparing. When you travel the galaxy, you leave traces, radio signals, engine signatures. We collected them all and studied them." He returned to his work. "We know more about the galaxy than the galaxy knows about us." This answer troubled Eth deeply. A species that watched and learned and hid its true strength was either very wise or very dangerous. Perhaps both. As night fell on Earth, Eth stood outside the repair bay and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, they were hunting for survivors. They would eventually learn that his ship had reached Earth. And then what would happen? Ho joined him, holding 2 cups filled with steaming liquid. "Drink this," he said. "You need rest, but this will help you think clearly first." Eth took the cup and sniffed. The smell was strange but pleasant. "What is it?" "Coffee," Ho said with a small smile. "A human invention, very popular, very powerful." Eth took a small sip. The taste was bitter at first, then warm and rich. He felt energy spreading through his body, chasing away the fog of exhaustion. "This is remarkable," he admitted. "That is just the beginning," Ho said. He looked up at the same stars. "Captain, I have served with you for 3 years. I have always been honest with you, so I will tell you something now and I hope you will trust me." "Speak," Eth said. "The humans are not what you think. We are not weak. We are not primitive. We have been waiting for something, and I think your arrival is part of it." Ho met his eyes. "Good things are coming, but so are difficult truths. Be ready." Eth drank more of the coffee and said nothing. He had come to Earth expecting simple repairs from a simple species. Instead, he had found something much more complicated, and he suspected the complications were only beginning. Morning came to Earth with soft golden light that spilled through the windows of the guest quarters. Eth had slept better than he had in weeks, wrapped in blankets that smelled clean and fresh. When he woke, he found his crew already gathered in a large common room, speaking in excited whispers. "Captain," called when she saw him, "you must come see this." He walked over to where his crew had gathered around a table. On the table sat several machines, each one producing different colored liquids into cups. A human woman stood nearby, watching them with bright, curious eyes. "Good morning, Captain," she said. "I am Specialist. I work in cultural exchange. My job is to help visitors understand human ways." "Cultural exchange," Eth repeated. Nodded. "Food, drinks, customs, entertainment. The small things that make life pleasant. I thought your crew might enjoy trying some human refreshments." One of the young crew members held up a cup filled with dark liquid. "Captain, this drink is amazing. It makes my mind feel sharper. I can think faster." Eth recognized the smell. It was the same coffee Ho had given him last night. "I have tried it. It is quite good." Smiled wider. "Coffee is special to humans. We cannot function without it, but I noticed something interesting." She pulled out a small device and showed Eth a screen filled with graphs and numbers. "When your crew drinks coffee, their brain activity increases by 40%. For humans, it is only 15%. Coffee affects much more strongly than it affects us." Eth stared at the data. "You measured our brain activity. When?" "The medical scans from yesterday," explained. "We always study our guests to make sure our food and drinks are safe for them, but the coffee results were unexpected." She gestured to the machines on the table. "I brought different varieties to test. Some might work even better." The crew members eagerly took new cups, trying different blends. Eth watched them with growing unease. The humans were being generous and kind, but they were also gathering information. Every interaction was a test. Every gift was an experiment. "Specialist," Eth said carefully, "how long have humans been studying alien species?" Tilted her head slightly. "We started serious research about 80 years ago when we first detected signals from the Galactic Union. We knew we were not alone, so we started preparing." "Preparing for what exactly?" "For everything," she said simply. "For friendship, for trade, for war. Humans like to be ready." Eth walked away from the table, needing space to think. He found a window overlooking a vast courtyard where human ships were lined up in neat rows. The ships looked fast and dangerous, built for combat, not the clumsy vessels the databases described. Ho appeared beside him, also holding a cup of coffee. "You look troubled, Captain." "I am," Eth admitted. "Your people have been watching the galaxy for decades, learning everything about us, yet you pretended to be primitive." "Not pretended," Ho said. "Just stayed quiet. There is a difference." "Why, what is the purpose of hiding?" Ho was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Do you know what happens to young species in the galaxy? The ones who show their strength too early?" Eth knew. Everyone knew. Young species attracted attention from older powers who saw them as threats. They were absorbed into empires, stripped of resources, sometimes destroyed entirely. The galaxy was not kind to newcomers who moved too fast. "So you hid," Eth said slowly. "You grew strong in secret." "We learned from history, not just our history but the history of every species we could study. We saw the patterns. We understood the dangers." Ho set down his cup. "Humans are young, but we are not stupid. We knew that showing our true strength would bring enemies to our door before we were ready." "And now, are you ready now?" Ho smiled, but there was something hard in his eyes, something old and patient. "They attacked your ship. They will learn you came here. They will see Earth as involved in their war." He turned to face Eth directly. "I think we are about to find out if we are ready." Later that day, Lieutenant called Eth to a meeting room deep inside the command building. When he arrived, he found several high-ranking humans seated around a large table. Screens on the walls showed maps of space, with the territory marked in angry red. "Captain Eth began, "We need to discuss the situation honestly. They have been expanding their territory for 20 years. They have conquered 11 species and destroyed 3 more. They have been fighting them for almost a decade." Eth nodded. These facts were not secrets. His people had lost millions of lives trying to stop the advance. "We know you were on a scouting mission when you were attacked," continued. "We know they are preparing a major offensive against space. We know your fleet is outnumbered and exhausted." "How do you know these things?" Eth demanded. The details she described were classified information, known only to high command. An older human at the end of the table spoke. He had gray hair and a calm voice. "We have been monitoring communications for 15 years. We know their battle plans. We know their weaknesses. We have been waiting for the right moment to act." "Act how?" The old man stood and walked to one of the screens. He touched it, and the display changed. Now it showed Earth surrounded by thousands of symbols, each one representing a ship. "This is the Earth Defense Fleet," he said. 4,000 combat vessels, 2,000 support ships, fully armed, fully crewed, ready to deploy. Eth felt his legs grow weak. 4,000 ships. The Navy had only 1,500 vessels, and they were considered one of the stronger powers in the region. How had the humans built such a force without anyone knowing? "Why are you showing me this?" Eth asked. "Because we need allies," the old man said. "We cannot fight thee alone, but neither can you. Together we might have a chance." Who had accompanied the captain spoke up. "You want to join the war just like that?" Answered, "We have been preparing for this war for 20 years. We just needed a reason to enter it openly. Your arrival gives us that reason." Eth understood now. The humans had been watching the grow stronger, threatening the entire galaxy. They had built their fleet in secret, waiting for the right moment. And his damaged ship, fleeing toward Earth, had given them exactly what they needed. A partner, a cause, a way to enter the conflict without looking like aggressors. "You planned this," Eth said. "It was not a question." "Not your arrival specifically," admitted. "But we knew someone would come eventually, someone running from someone who needed help." She stepped closer to him. "Captain, we do not want to trick you, we want to help you, but we also want to protect ourselves. They will reach Earth eventually if no one stops them. Better to fight them now with allies than alone later." Eth thought about his crew, about his people, about the years of war and death that seemed endless. And now here were the humans, offering ships and soldiers and hope. "I must contact my government," he said finally. "This decision is too big for me alone." The old man nodded. "Of course. We will provide you with a secure communication channel. Take whatever time you need." But as Eth left the room, he already knew what the High Command would say. They were desperate. They were losing. And 4,000 human warships might be the only thing standing between them and extinction. The humans had been waiting for this moment. And now, finally, they were ready to step out of the shadows. The communication with High Command lasted 3 hours. Eth stood before a screen showing the faces of admirals and counselors, their expressions moving from disbelief to shock to desperate hope. He told them everything: the advanced human technology, the secret fleet, the offer of alliance. When he finished, there was a long silence. Then the Supreme Admiral, an ancient with scars covering half his face, spoke slowly. 4,000 ships, he said. You are certain of this number? I saw the displays myself, Eth replied, and I have seen their technology. It is equal to ours in many ways, superior in others. A species we thought primitive, another counselor muttered, hiding in plain sight for decades. The Supreme Admiral raised a hand for silence. Captain Eth, you have served with honor for many years. I trust your judgment. Tell me honestly, can we trust these humans? Eth thought carefully before answering. He thought about Ho, who had served loyally aboard his ship, about Lieutenant, who had welcomed strangers with warmth, about Engineer Sung Ho, who worked through the night to repair a foreign vessel, about Specialist, who cared about small comforts. I believe we can, he said finally. They have their own reasons for wanting this alliance. They are not doing this purely from kindness, but their goals align with ours. They want to stop so do we. The Supreme Admiral nodded slowly. Then we accept. Make the arrangements. We will send our diplomatic corps to Earth immediately. The screen went dark, and Eth felt the weight of history pressing down on him. He had just helped forge an alliance that would change the galaxy forever. He hoped he had made the right choice. Lieutenant was waiting outside the communication room. Good news, she asked. My government agrees to the alliance, Eth said. They are sending diplomats. His face lit up with genuine happiness. Excellent. Then there is someone I would like you to meet. She has been wanting to speak with you since you arrived. She led him through the building to a large hangar that Eth had not seen before. Inside, human soldiers stood in perfect formation, thousands of them stretching into the distance. They wore dark uniforms and carried weapons that hummed with power. At the front of the formation stood a woman with short gray hair and eyes like winter ice. Commander 1, introduced, head of Earth's combined military forces. Commander 1 stepped forward and offered her hand in the human greeting. Eth had learned this gesture from Ho, so he took her hand and shook it firmly. Captain Eth, one said. Her voice was calm but carried absolute authority. I have read the reports of your battle with your crew fought bravely. You should be proud. We survived, Eth said. That is all. Survival against thee is no small thing. They destroy most ships they attack. One turned and gestured for him to walk with her. Come, I want to show you something. They walked through the hangar, past the rows of soldiers, to a massive door at the far end. One pressed her hand against a panel, and the door slid open to reveal a sight that stopped Eth in his tracks. Ships, thousands of ships. They filled a cavern so large that Eth could not see the other side. Each vessel was sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons. Workers moved among them, making final preparations. The air hummed with power and purpose. This is the first strike fleet, one said. 1,000 of our best warships, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. They will be the first to engage when the war begins. Eth walked forward slowly, staring at the nearest ship. It was twice the size of a cruiser, with weapon systems he did not recognize. How did you build all this without anyone knowing? Underground facilities, one explained. Orbital stations hidden behind our moon. Factory ships disguised as mining vessels. We have been building for 20 years, Captain. Every resource, every scientist, every soldier, all focused on one goal: defeating the protecting our world, one corrected. They are just the current threat. There will be others after them. Humans have learned that the universe is dangerous. The only way to survive is to be stronger than anything that might threaten us. Eth turned to face her. But why wait? Why not reveal your strength earlier? You could have joined the Galactic Union. You could have helped us fight years ago. One's expression did not change. And what would have happened then? The older powers would have seen us as a threat. They would have demanded we limit our fleet. They would have tried to control our growth. Some might have even attacked us before we were ready. So you let others die while you prepared in secret. It was a harsh thing to say, but Eth felt it needed to be said. His people had suffered for years while the humans watched from safety. One met his eyes without flinching. Yes, we did, and I will not apologize for it. My duty is to protect humanity. Every decision I make serves that duty. Revealing ourselves too early would have endangered my people. I was not willing to take that risk. Her honesty was brutal but respectable. Eth understood duty. He understood the weight of protecting those who depended on you. He could not hate one for doing exactly what he would have done in her place. But now you are willing to fight, he said. Now we are ready, she replied. Our fleet is complete, our soldiers are trained, our technology is proven, and we have found allies who share our enemy. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Captain, I know you have doubts. I know you wonder if we will abandon you when the fighting gets hard. But I give you my word as a soldier and as a human. We will stand with thee until thee are defeated or until we fall. There is no middle ground. Eth believed her. There was something in her voice, in her eyes, that spoke of absolute commitment. This was a woman who had spent her entire life preparing for war. She would not back down now. What happens next? He asked. One turned back toward the ships. We wait for your diplomats to arrive. We sign the formal alliance, and then we go to war. She smiled slightly, and there was something fierce in the expression. They have terrorized this galaxy for too long. They believe no one can stop them. We are going to prove them wrong. As they walked back through the hangar, Eth noticed something he had missed before. On the side of each ship, painted in bright letters, was a phrase in the human language. He asked one what it meant. Per ad, she translated, through hardship to the stars. It is an old human saying. It reminds us that nothing worth having comes easily. Eth thought about his damaged ship, his exhausted crew, and the years of war still ahead. Hardship was something he understood well, but for the first time in a long time, he felt something that might have been hope. The humans had been through hardship too. They had hidden in the shadows, building their strength, waiting for the right moment. And now they were ready to reach for the stars alongside new allies. They had no idea what was coming for them. 1 week passed on Earth. The diplomats arrived on fast ships, their faces tired but hopeful. Negotiations began immediately, and to everyone's surprise, they went smoothly. The humans asked for little and offered much. Ships, weapons, technology, training, medical supplies, coffee, which had become almost sacred to the crew. Eth spent his days watching the transformation of his ship. Engineer Sung Ho had kept his promise. The old scout vessel was now something new, something powerful. The engines ran at 3 times their original efficiency. The shields could withstand weapons fire that would have destroyed them before. The weapons systems had been completely rebuilt, capable of firepower that matched warships. She is beautiful, Sung Ho said proudly, standing beside Eth in the repair bay. Not the same ship you brought us, but better, much better. I hardly recognize her, Eth admitted. My engineers will want to study every change you made. We included full documentation, Sung Ho replied. Everything we did explained in detail. Share it with your people. Build more ships like this. The more strong vessels fighting, the better. Eth looked at the human engineer. Why are you giving us this knowledge freely? You could demand payment. You could keep your secrets. Sung Ho shrugged. Secrets do not win wars, allies do. Besides, we have plenty more where this came from. Human engineers never stop inventing. By the time you copy our current technology, we will have something new. It was a strange kind of arrogance, but Eth could not deny the results. The humans were generous because they could afford to be. Their technology advanced so quickly that sharing old designs cost them nothing. On the final day, a ceremony was held in the Great Hall of Earth's Central Command. Leaders from both species gathered to sign the formal alliance treaty. Cameras broadcast the event across human media and through special channels to space. The galaxy watched as two civilizations joined hands against a common enemy. Commander 1 stood at the center of the stage, dressed in her finest uniform. Beside her stood Supreme Admiral Al of the, who had traveled personally to Earth for this moment. "Today we make history," one announced, her voice carrying through the silent hall. "The people of Earth and the Confederacy stand together as allies and friends. We face a great darkness, but we face it together, and together we will bring light back to the stars." The Supreme Admiral spoke next, his old voice heavy with emotion. "For 10 years my people have fought alone. We have lost worlds, we have lost loved ones, we have lost hope. But today hope returns. The humans have shown us that courage exists in unexpected places, that strength can grow in secret, that friends can come when we need them most." The two leaders pressed their hands together, sealing the alliance in the traditional manner of both species. The crowd erupted in cheers. Human and voices mixed together, creating a sound that echoed off the walls and seemed to shake the very air. Eth stood in the crowd, watching the celebration. His crew surrounded him, their faces bright with joy, had tears running down her blue cheeks. Even the youngest crew members who had been terrified during the attack were laughing and embracing their human hosts. Ho appeared beside him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "One for the road," he said, handing over a cup. Eth took it gratefully. "You are not coming with us." "Not this time. I have been asked to stay on Earth as a liaison between our peoples, but I will join the fleet eventually. I do not want to miss the fight." They stood together in comfortable silence, drinking their coffee and watching the celebration. Then Ho spoke again, his voice quiet. "Captain, I want to thank you for the years we served together, for trusting me even when you had reasons to doubt, for giving humans a chance." Eth turned to face his old friend. "You earned that trust, every day through every action. I will miss having you on my ship." "Your ship is in good hands, and soon you will have an entire fleet to command." Eth raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Ho smiled mysteriously. "You will see." An hour later, Eth understood. As his upgraded ship prepared to depart, he received a message from Commander 1. She asked him to look out the main window. He did, and his heart nearly stopped. Ships were rising from Earth. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. The entire First Strike fleet was launching, their engines burning bright against the blue sky. They rose in perfect formation, each vessel taking its place in a pattern that seemed to cover half the heavens. And at the center of the formation, waiting for Eth's ship, was an empty space, a place of honor at the very front. One's voice came through the radio. "Captain Eth, you brought to Earth. You trusted us when you had no reason to. The Supreme Admiral has agreed that you should lead the first combined assault against the. Your ship will fly at the head of our fleet." Eth could not speak. His crew stared at him with wide eyes, waiting for his response. Finally, he found his voice. "I am honored, Commander. We will not fail you." "I know you will not. Now take your position. We have a war to win." The ship rose from Earth, joining the massive formation of human vessels. From space, the fleet looked like a river of stars flowing away from the blue planet. So many ships, so much power, and all of it united against a single enemy. As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Eth stood on his bridge and addressed his crew. 1 week ago we were dying, our ship was broken, our hope was gone. We limped toward Earth expecting simple repairs from a primitive species. He paused, letting his words settle. Instead, we found something incredible. We found friends we did not know we had. We found strength we did not expect. We found a future we thought was lost. He looked at each crew member in turn, who had navigated them through disaster. The young officers who had kept fighting when death seemed certain. All of them survivors, all of them now part of something bigger. They wanted to destroy us, Eth continued. They wanted to send a message to the galaxy. They wanted to show that no one could stand against them. Instead, they sent us to Earth. They gave humans a reason to join the war. They awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. The engines hummed as the fleet prepared to jump. Thousands of vessels, ready to carry war to the enemy's doorstep. They do not know what they have done, Eth said softly. They thought they were hunting weak prey. They thought they were winning, but they made a mistake, the worst mistake of their existence. The jump countdown began. On every ship in the fleet, crews prepared for the coming battle. Human and together, united by coffee and courage and a shared refusal to bow to tyranny. They woke the humans, Eth finished, and now the humans are coming for them. The fleet jumped, disappearing into the darkness between stars. Behind them, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, quiet and peaceful. But from its surface and its hidden bases and its orbital stations, more ships were already launching. More soldiers were training. More weapons were being built. The humans had waited for this moment for 20 years. They were not going to waste it. They wanted war. Earth was happy to give them one.